Steve, we are live. This is happening. We are alive. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of a podcast that I've been wanting to do forever. I'm going to call it Brady's Hunch.
Like of Notre Dame?
Yes.
Like Hunchback?
Yes.
Is that what it means?
Yeah.
Do you have a bell?
Brady's Hunch, like, do I have a bell? Yeah, it's
like,
Aaron.
Rings the bell.
It's Aaron. Oh, no, I see what you're saying, not Belle. I was thinking Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, no. Like you're a hunch.
My first faux pas on my podcast. How good. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Steven Barnard, who's a very near and dear friend of mine. How long have we known each other, Steve?
Since we were lads. Or you were a lad.
I was a lad.
What was that? Like at least 7 years. No, 2009. 9 years. There you go.
2009, 9 years.
No, beginning of 2010.
Right. Yeah, that's correct.
8 years.
I remember because my fly crew experience started in 2010 when I was 20 and you were...
Oh.
Right. Let's leave it there. So what Steve and I are referring to, we were filming... I jumped in and we were filming a Art vs. Science music video for Magic Fountain. But never forget it. It's a tune. Check it out. And the music video, check us out. We're in it. I was dressed as a lad. That was my costume. I remember they put me in like 3 costumes that day and then they threw me in a lad costume. And as soon as I walked out in it, everyone thought it was hilarious. And they were like, well, then that's your costume. And yeah, and it made heaps of sense to this guy and the rest of Fly Crew.
And then we made halloumi together.
That's right.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
nice.
you were like halloumi, and then I got caught
And you had
like
the
trying
lemon.
to cook in my costume and the
Oh, really?
yeah don't you remember that? It's on footage somewhere.
Oh, right.
The costume.
It's like the second
Manager.
fly crew. No, what was it? Fly tube, the second flight tube ever, or something.
Yeah, something like
And
that.
Neil and I are singing. And I know I'm right.
That's right.
Out. And there's that like big glass window, and the morning sun is coming through. It looks so quintessential.
Yeah,
Great.
and that definitely that, such a time. Yeah, and I got in heaps of trouble because she was like, "Are you cooking in your costume?" I was like, "Oh no," and I was like,
Grubby lad.
and it's funny because I was being a lad when she caught me. I was like in front of the Fly Crew camera, being like, "All right, so what we're gonna?" I don't know. I've lost the character now, but back then I was like, "Eshay." Oh, there it is. It's back. So Eshays, yeah, we're making some halloumi, hey, and then she was like, "Are you cooking in costume?" I was like, "Oh no." I went back to Brady real bloody quick. Yeah, so we've known each other for a long time. It's been a great friendship, and it's not ending anytime soon, despite what the people want. Steve, you want to go ahead and tell the lovely people listening at home or watching at home the Steve story.
Oh,
Who are you? What? Because you have one of my favourite stories.
Confused bastard. That's what I had. No, wait, bastard means I don't have a dad. doesn't
Yeah,
it?
no.
No, that's not.
He can confirm he has a dad.
I have a dad.
He runs ultra marathons.
Yeah, I'm Steve. I was born in Cape Town, South Africa, and I lived there for 11 years. Oh, I was born in Cape Town, South Africa.
There it is.
And I lived there for 11 years. And as artistically, I did ballet as a little kid. A little kid. It's a bit New Zealand.
Yeah, a little
bit. I did ballet, like kind of jazz, fun ballet, and it was pretty cool. It was at a dance school that was... So firstly, it's pretty rare to have a male ballet teacher as a little boy,
Yep.
which I had.
Can confirm.
And not only that, it was a Christian male ballet teacher, and it was a Christian ballet school, and we're a church-going family, so that was like even extra rare.
Yeah.
Like a religiously on point male ballet teacher. So I was like, and I felt pretty special because I was like his little boy, and like he was like, yeah, you're mad, and I really enjoyed it. And musically, I did piano, and I always raised my hand to volunteer at the church musicals for solos. I was just like, and put a camera in front of me. You know, there's all these funny memories of South Africa, and you know, someone in the family bought a camera, and then suddenly Steve was in front of it. And then moved to New Zealand when I was 11, and kind of stopped artistic things for a while, just because I moved. And then started ballroom and Latin dancing, and had a enjoyable but tumultuous journey with that in terms of yeah, the studio that I went to was pretty humble, and when I started, they were humble, but they were good. And then a couple of other studios started that were very like vivacious. Is that the right word? Like very loud and big, and they didn't kind of have this quiet local studio vibe that we had. And the whole scene changed within like a year.
Just ran out of tea.
Oh no!
I know, it's the worst. Anyway.
And then so then like dancing went from being this really fun thing that was really kind of my vibe and my space, and then it became this thing where everyone was better than me always. And then finally kind of feeling stuck in this studio because you love your teachers and you've been there for years, and you're like, but I want to be better, but I can't afford to be better because that studio charges heaps and we're poor, and like all these kind of like and also at the same time started classical guitar lessons and hated it, and then went to a little camp on an Easter weekend camp, and all these guys were just playing rock tunes and jamming, and I was like, mad, I want to do that. So I went away and just learnt rock tunes for an entire year in my bedroom for hours and hours a night, and came back the next year and was like, I'm ready to jam. Yeah. Let's do this, bitches. I've been practicing all year for this moment. Yeah. That was really fun. And then I probably didn't say, let's do this, bitches.
Yeah, I kind of don't feel like you would have said that.
Definitely didn't. I don't even think I... Yeah, anyway. And then when I was 17... which was 17 years ago, moved to
math guys
Australia, and again, and by that point I was like into bands, so I started a punk ska band called Crying Out Loud.
And if anyone doesn't know what ska punk bands are, quick rundown of that.
Yeah. Oh, quick rundown. It's like just really punk rock meets fast reggae with trumpets. Yeah. Yeah, it's super fun.
It's like, really fun. Yeah. As a huge punk rock fan with like everything I do, it's like, it's just ska is the bomb. When I met you, you were like, yeah, ska punk, and I was like, I don't know what that is, and you explained it to me, and then you started dropping some band names, and I was like, I've loved that. We were talking. I remember one of the easiest ones to go to, like Real Big Fish. Is one, but also
absolute.
I think
classics.
I think everyone's got a really like the band that took. Real Big Fish is one of them, but the band that took ska mainstream, like the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
Yeah, well, they had that big song.
But never the impression had to knock on wood. The impression that I get. He's got that voice, yeah. I remember back in, dude, I used to froth on that tune. I didn't know what it was, and it came through my TV on Rage or Video Hits or whatever, and I was just like, oh my god, the sound that I love instantly just came at me through my telly. So.
Yeah, it's a cool
genre.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. And so I didn't dance for like 6 years, and we kind of toured a little bit in like a young band kind of way, just having fun driving cars up and down the countryside.
Just terrible stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then we finished. And I was like, oh man, I really miss dancing, and I'd love to be a front man who can sing and dance. And so decided that Evanbo was a good place to go to learn that, which is, in hindsight, doesn't really make much sense. Because that's not what they teach. But anyway.
And Evanbo are a contemporary dance.
They are excellent.
Yeah,
I learned so much, but not that.
Definitely specialising in contemporary dance.
Yeah.
In Sydney, down in Kirrawee. Yeah, Kirrawee.
And then kind of fell in love with contemporary dance because of that, and then explored that heaps and heaps and heaps, to the point where one of my teachers, after a year or so after Evanbo, was like, dude, why aren't you working? Like, go and get jobs as a contemporary dancer. And I was like, oh, because I don't want to be a contemporary dancer. I want to be a singer who dances. And then he was like, okay, do that then. Like, what are you doing? And then I don't think I really took a contemporary class after that, because I was like, oh yeah, I've lost track of the thing I want to do, like, because I'm just having fun rolling around on the floor, and which I really miss. But I was like, okay, I need to like focus. And so then went on a journey to actually figure that out. And then at the time I had a folk band, and so we started doing that with the folk band. And I realized what it was becoming was, because it's folk, it's not very, well, at least our brand of folk, people didn't dance with us. They kind of would they'd watch us do our cool introspective folk tunes and watch Brady would dance, Neil, a whole bunch
And
of people.
this was
in the
Arbery.
scene. Arbery. So many people came and danced with Arbery.
That was cool.
So many. Alice, Sarah,
Alice Robinson, Sarah,
Sella, sorry. Oh my gosh. Sammy
Jane Smith,
Amy Whitaker, Neil Whitaker, James Barry, Will Tran, Keno McHugh.
Yep, McHugh.
Keno.
Yeah.
Ash.
Giles.
Yeah. Heaps of people.
Forever Tupo.
Forever. And a lot of those people a couple of times.
Yeah, heaps of people a couple of times actually.
Yeah. So, but it became a bit more of a show and tell thing where they would come, they would dance, but no one else would dance. I was like, oh no, I want it to be communal. And we'd written a song called "I Don't Want You to Love Me," the band, and arranged it, and people were like, yeah, that's a real banger. And it was quite an R&B tilting tune rather than a hip hop, rather than a folk tilting tune. And so I decided to go down that rabbit hole of figuring out how to write more songs like that and how to create an aesthetic like that, and created a character named John Cotton, and that character kind of inhabits that side of my writing personality, which ended up being way more complicated and nuanced than I expected, and still trying to execute it at a level that I find completely compelling. Because every time we execute it, I learn something about the genre and the aesthetic, and I go, oh, right, yeah, we're not there yet.
Which is good, right? Because it creates this feedback loop.
Yeah, it also, like, unfortunately plays into, like, my perfectionism and my fears that I'm crippling myself by overanalyzing myself. But then often when it boils down to it, it's like, no, there is something fundamentally about the vision of this project. There's something missing in the execution that we've just done.
Yeah.
And then we make a decision. Is there more value in just releasing this thing that doesn't quite nail it? Or is there more value in just trying to do it again and just kind of enjoying the process? Which I do enjoy, but I would also like to actually, like, feel like the career is beginning of sorts, or like the actual public side of things is beginning, rather than just the, like, Steve's little creative journey that he's on, which you're always going to be on. So that's meant a lot of changes, and you go through a lot of band members when it's like a kind of semi-volunteer thing that lasts years and years and years and years and years, and never quite gets there. That's kind of, I guess that's up to speed.
So you've done so much. Like you are.
That's just the art side of.
Yeah, that's just the art side. Steve, in terms of jobs, I mean, we both take people on cycling tours through the city, Bonza bike tours. If you need a cycling tour, if you're not local and you want to do a bike tour, can't promise we'll be there when you get there, but see what happens. Right? Just in case people watch this 3 years from now and they're like, oh, I'm going to do a bike tour with Brady or Steve, and we're not there anymore. Who knows?
If that does happen and we are there, please have a very serious talking to us about our career goals.
Or please give us a really big tip.
Yeah, like just huge, like life-changing.
We'll probably need it.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. You've done. You started with dance. Because you come from a church going family and you are a churchgoer. And those youth groups and being like, oh, rock and roll, and like finding ska punk and doing all that stuff, and then going, oh, I want to be a frontman that dances. Evan Bow, so contemporaries then got you in there a little bit, and then trying to find a way to like bring it all together. It's sort of something I find you as a human. I mean, I find you as a human really lovely and a great friend, but at the same time, watching you navigate that. I can see how I think I can see to a point how difficult it is.
Yeah.
And that makes me it always keeps me really excited for when you do find that when that plane
Sure.
when that reality plane when that reality of like seeing things pay off starts to when that plane starts to take off, you know what I mean? Like I'm really excited for that train to leave the station.
Me too.
And when it does, we can be like, yes. I feel like you, your family, or your mates collectively, like when we supported you over the years, we'll be like, we did it. This is Sparta. Like, it'll be this unreal moment.
I think that
Or it won't.
yeah, or it won't.
Or
no,
it
but
won't.
I think
And we'll just go, oh well, a life well lived.
yeah, something. Oh gosh, what was I gonna say? That the thing you said, like bringing it all together, and like, and some of the big other things that I've done that I haven't mentioned that were hinted at was like I have a counselling diploma and a theology degree, and
It's done a lot.
yeah, and so trying to like, that trying to bring it together thing is like quite, super hard. And there's been a few moments where jobs that I've had have hinted that we can bring it together for you.
Yeah.
You know, and then like they haven't.
Yeah.
There's been only a couple of times that that's happened, and then they've been like the worst jobs I've ever had. The jobs that like almost promise to deliver more than they can, or more than they will, or maybe they would have delivered it if I'd stuck at it for 5 years, but it's just like, oh, like this sucks right now, and you know, there's no promise here. I don't see the promise that you gave, so short of like torturing myself for 5 years to find it, I'm doing that anyway on the other side of my life, so sorry. But yeah, that bringing it together is a hard thing. Like sometimes when I look at other artists who have like kind of like just dancers, or you know, it's just, or people who kind of fit more into there's a young guy that I follow, I forget his name, and he's just super talented, great singer, incredible mover. His freestyles look like choreography that he's practiced for days. Like,
Is it Neil?
No, he's much more Asian than Neil.
Right.
In that he's
actually Asian and Neil's not.
Sean, I think he's Sean Liu or something like that.
Okay.
Great little guy, super inspiring, super young. And what's cool about his journey is that he's kind of been on it already for ages. Like he probably started dance quite a while ago, and you know, and he's kind of just into R&B, and so he sings like an R&B singer, and it kind of works. And I don't know if he just does it or if he's been trained or had lessons. But I think because my journey, particularly with the narrative of moving countries, has been so stop-start, you get to the point where you're like, or, you know, I sung in a punk band for 5 years, and so I used to smash my voice and yell and scream, and so, you know, I didn't listen to R&B in that time, so I haven't developed the ear for like those little R&B kind of, I don't even know what it is. I sound like a strange man, but just never practiced it. Like I practiced standing in front of my mirror with a 5-kilo guitar around my neck going, you know?
Damn right.
Yeah, and it was awesome, and I loved it. But then
The
that
way
means
we do, bro.
now that I'm kind of embracing this R&B thing in a way, it's like, oh man, my voice just doesn't do that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I just haven't had years of emulating and practicing and understanding it. But it does other stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think on one side is an advantage, because hopefully when I do anything, it'll sound like nothing else. Because there's a couple of people that I observe, and they just want to be the R&B singer. Yeah. And their stuff sounds like Nelly.
Yeah, they just want to be like Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
And that's just what they burn for.
Yeah, and they can kind of pull it off for whatever reason. And I think I've just never been able to pull off any sort of cliche.
Yep.
Which is frustrating.
Do you ever sometimes think that could be like a hidden blessing?
Yeah,
but that's a good thing, because you have to find your own thing.
But I think because my brain isn't very good at being like, I think I have a couple of knacks. Like I have a really good knack for songwriting.
Yep.
And generally have a bit of a knack for dancing and singing, but I don't have like, I'm not like one of those prolific people who like a movement just like makes sense to them. And,
Yeah.
you know, and it just kind of like, it's quite a lot of work. So then I've spent all this time working on contemporary and people are like, dude, you're hireable. And I'm like, oh, oops. I should have spent all that time working on that. And I got a bit distracted and excited by this fun thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of useless now. Little things like that. And then it's like, well, what do I do with this huge vocabulary of contemporary? Like that doesn't actually suit what I'm doing, or this huge vocabulary of punk rock that doesn't suit what I'm doing, and I keep jumping from thing to thing. And but yeah, I think you're right.
Roping them together is like the
somehow,
even if it's the vocal tension you hold in your voice when you're say you're recording an EP or an album, you've got one bit that you just really want to. You're like, I want this bit to like have a to it in the vocals or something, punky white boy push, and then you can just give that for that one moment, and the rest of it can be or whatever, if that's the way you want to do it. But then people listening to it can go, oh, like the Rocket Summer, you know, Bryce Avery, you know, it's great because he's got this. People have sometimes said he's sort of like the punk rock Michael Jackson because he's got such a big vocal range, and sometimes he like kind of gives the to it. He's got this little like hiss to it, and like kind of push, which is kind of fun. But it's like finding your own way that you're going to do it. I just think it's good that you're not. I think the thing that really inspires me about you is that you don't sit in the dark and try and hypothesize the way it's going to work. You're just kind of like
I feel like I do.
You feel like you do? Okay.
A little bit.
But I feel like as much as you're like that, you also get out in the real world and you do stuff.
Yeah.
I think is the best way to be. I think that's
at some point you have to.
I think that's optimal. The worst thing you want is to be an artist who thinks they're great but then you're in your own little fortress and you're like and because you're in your fortress, the world's not interacting with you. You're not interacting with the world. You're not getting any feedback. You're going.
We have to ask why. I think my fortress is my perfectionism, though.
Right.
So then that's where, like, I just go, no, it's not right, and I don't want to be rejected. So I'm just going to work on making it more right, so that I'll be less rejected. Which, again, there's always an element of truth in there.
Yeah, somewhere. I was thinking that too.
Yeah. So it's not like. And then I have to be really, really careful of what part of that is true enough to follow, and what part of that is me being an avoider, like avoiding releasing music. Sorry.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, and yeah.
Because otherwise you create this, if you don't put anything out into the world, I think what I've experienced with the Blackguard as well, you just become this, you can quite easily become like a embittered, like, it's sort of like that troll under the bridge. You're just like you're just like, you lock yourself away, and then when people like want to come and cross your bridge, you're like, hey, you don't get to enjoy my art, or you sort of become judgy of what the rest of the world does around you.
Yeah.
And that can like sort of just kill your creativity after a while as well, because then you don't create anything, and your perfectionism gets worse.
Yeah.
Because it just spikes up. Because what you're judging in others, you also judge. You also, like a muscle, the more you judge others for a certain thing, you probably judge yourself for that as well.
Totally, yeah, that's totally, and that's what I think what I've been trying to address lately, at least with my dancing.
Yeah,
is just releasing things releasing things and acknowledging that it doesn't matter how good or bad it is, in a very real way, like, you know, and conversations have gone from, you know, on social media when I go to a class. Conversations, or even or just see someone, a musician, dancer, friend, person. Conversations have changed in the last few months from, hey, what have you been up to, oh, hey, I see you've been doing heaps of creative stuff lately.
Sick.
And in my head, I'm like, I don't actually, like, I kind of have, like, as in I've been more diligent, and I've been filming it and releasing it, releasing like on Instagram. But it has changed a perception of me, at least to, whatever the 100 people or so that interact regularly with what I do.
Yeah. No, the thousands.
Well, I have thousands of followers, but I don't have thousands of interactors, which is a little bit confusing because I'm like...
Is it? I mean, it's just such a social media. Like,
it's only confusing
welcome
in that,
to the world that we live in.
Of those 2,000 people...
Everyone's like, I care. And then one person's like, I actually do.
Well, yeah, but it's of those 2,000 people, it's roughly the same 300 people who interact.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm not really surprised, but I am like curious. It's like, maybe I don't think I have 3,000. It's like 2,200 other people that are just dormant, or not on, or follow me but don't care and feel too rude to unfollow me, or I'm like, who are you? Yeah, which is just a bit funny, right?
Sure.
But also don't really know.
To skate across to something I wanted to talk to you about.
Let's not talk about Instagram.
Let's not talk about that because
boring.
We'll just get sad until fast forward a couple of years where we have huge audiences, and then we'll be like, Instagram's mad. Our fans are the reason we can do what we do. Blah blah blah, and we'll do that whole virtue signaling thing of my fans are my everything, and it is what it is. But right now, my fans are not everything. I mean, the one listen, it's like the real people that actually care about your art. Thank you so much, but followers are different. Followers that are just there in number only. It's like,
yeah.
If you're a follower that hasn't reached out to either of us in a while, say hi.
Don't you started here?
Yeah. Don't be for some reason. Don't be such a bloody stranger. Say hello, so we can say hello back, and we can get chatting. We can actually be a bit more of a community. Maybe that's something. But we'll see. I want to talk to you about peanut butter jams, and so Neil Whitaker, a good friend of ours. We mentioned him before. We made a joke about him being not Asian. He's a really great friend of ours. He's in Fly Crew. He is soon to put on a show called Una Palabra, which we'll talk about a bit later. But he also runs this event called Peanut Butter Jams, where people can come into a small little venue called Kingdom in Miranda, near Miranda, Kiwi. And people can come in and they can bring in their performance art. Actually, they could probably even bring in their visual art if they wanted to. You can do anything you want. You can sort of come in. He does them every 2 months.
Yeah,
maybe 2 months, every 3 months or something. Where people can come in and they can bring in whatever they want. It doesn't have to be finished. There's no onus on it being done or perfect or any of that stuff.
Or even nailing it.
Nailing it.
Fumbling is kind of good.
Yeah. Because then people can go... Because then when you fumble, people can go, yeah, you fumbled. You're trying something. You're on the edge of your... You're on the edge of your scope, I think, which is something that's very encouraging about Neil and the way he runs a class as well. Because when Neil runs a contemporary class, if you fall over...
He's stoked.
He's stoked. He gets the whole class to sort of cheer you on.
My dad always used to say about ice skating, whenever we went ice skating, he was like, if you don't fall over, you didn't try.
Boom.
And I was like, so I would always try do dumb stuff on ice skates that I couldn't do because I was like, I just want to be trying. I just don't want to be round and round and round and round. It's let's try and do some thing.
Which is the opposite thing. Which is like Zeno's paradox. You're like, oh sweet, I'm gonna just be awful, and which means I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a pattern here, Steve. As your therapist.
I'll be seeing later today.
Yeah. So what you did at Peanut Butter Jams is you came out and you told a really quick version of a story about a song that you've been writing. You've spent, did you say 10 years on a song?
I haven't spent an entire 10 years every year, but the first version of it is 10 years old. 11 years old.
Yeah.
11 years old. I forgot how old I was.
And that song has had so many different iterations to it.
Yeah.
And you sort of started talking about it, and you would point to Neil, and Neil would play. Every time you were when I first started the song, it was like this, and you would point to the back, and Neil would play the song. And it was actually really cool to hear that, one by one, hear all the different versions of the song coming through in the timeline. When you were doing that, and I didn't get a chance to tell you this on the night, but I was sitting there going, this is Steve's TED Talk.
Yeah, sure.
This is, if Steve was to give a TED Talk,
a more organised 30-minute version of this.
Yeah.
15, what are they, 17 minutes?
Yeah, something like 17 minutes, 15 minutes. 15 minutes and then 2 minutes of laughter room, maybe, of room for people to go, ha ha ha, this person's clever and funny. Yeah, that's what I felt like I was seeing. It's like, this could be Steve's. Like, so if that song, if you keep rebuilding that song and then it becomes a huge like smash hit, everyone's like, Steven Barnard
wrote this amazing
John
song,
Cotton overnight success, and then you get on stage at a TED Talk and you go, so that song I'm really known for. These are the versions of it, and it just people can be like, oh my god, and like it could be, it's a great thing on. It's not an overnight success. And you know what's really funny about this? I've idealized this whole scenario now. It's probably not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
Just because
I'm going to be on like some other talk show called, I don't know,
Why My Dreams Failed. I hope not.
You don't care about talking about things you aren't interested in.
That sounds like Australia's next hit reality TV show, to be perfectly honest.
All morning TV ever.
Oh, ouch. Scathing reviews. But I honestly wanted to say, that's what it felt like. It was like the start of this TED Talk thing. You had this broader narrative and you had this underlying thing to go. It said something to... It spoke to me because I was sitting there going... Because I had never really sat there and gone, oh yeah, Steve's had like 4 or 5 different versions of that song. I was sitting there going... Yeah, true. And then I was thinking about all the times I've had pieces that I've just done once and gone, yep. And sort of in a way of my perfectionism, like I'll use my perfectionism in a creative way. And then usually if my cast does a show, I'll enjoy that show, but then I'll just be like, all right, moving on to the next thing, because I'll see something in it that I'll instantly get feedback and I'll go, okay, next time I don't want to make that mistake. And then I instantly try and quickly get on track to the next thing as a way to escape the past in a little bit of a way. Yeah. So I was learning a lot. I was like, maybe I shouldn't try and escape my past so quickly. Maybe I should sit on a concept that I really like and do it for longer and reiterate it, rebuild it, retool it, restructure it. I just think the big thing with me and putting on shows and getting people interested is that you kind of, because I'm so small right now in the industry, putting on the same show 4 different times and getting people to come to that show 4 different times is going to be like, people are going to be like, I've seen that show. And I'll be like, it's a different show. And they can still be like, yeah, but is it? I still know.
And I didn't release the song 4 times. That's
correct.
The other thing.
That's also correct.
And I think that's although, it's just so different for dance.
I mean, look, if I had enough money to pay my dancers for like 2 years of rehearsals, building a concept and making it absolute, I would probably give that a go. But
and I think
while we're here on a shoestring budget, and while I'm a bootstrapper, it's not much of it.
Yeah, and that's what, maybe someone like Sydney Dance Company probably has that process, right? And then they'll show the work, and they'll go back into development for 2 weeks, and then they'll show the work again and develop for 2 weeks, and then now the work is finished. And even in probably finishing it, they probably edit it a little bit for the week of shows that they do.
Yeah, like how long did Bangara have to put together Dark Emu?
Yeah,
they probably smashed that one for a whole year. And on top of that, they've had their company going for a long time, and all that, the culture of Bangara and the culture of Sydney Dance Company. What did you just say? That was really good.
Work process, or the foundational work process. It's like, we've been working at this for ages, and we're not wondering what we're standing on. We know what we're standing on, so we kind of. Yeah, and I think, but and all of those versions
and Stephen
of that song,
Page is a boss as well. He's just really good at what he does.
So the hard thing about dancing is that it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Physically, like particularly like the blackguard stuff. Like I remember walking up to Georgia
Anderson, one of my cast members,
and said, "Man, like that looked really hard. I can't believe, like I just couldn't do that. Like in the physical shape that I'm in, I just couldn't." And she was like, "Oh yeah, I can only just do it." Like, and I was like, "Oh, that's encouraging," because it looked. I was like, "Man, am I like less of a human?" Like, because that looks so hard.
She is also a superhero.
She is. Yeah, she's a very strong young lady, physically. Like,
and personality-wise too.
Yeah. The mentally and physically, yeah. But then also, I said to you, like, you don't envision touring a show like that, and you were like, "No, that's a show you do for a few days, and then."
And then you rest for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. That's good to know. But even still, like, it takes a type of toll on your body that performing music doesn't take.
Yeah.
Even teaching dance and teaching music, like to teach music, you sit in a chair for an hour and play some things, you know. Yeah. Whereas teaching dance, you got to walk around, you got to mark things, you've got to do things full out, you've got to like sit down and watch and take notes, and it's a much more physically exhausting thing.
Yeah, and it's really exhausting as well because you can get decision fatigue. And also because you're making creative decisions, you're making so many creative decisions within a rehearsal, however long, or a class or however long that's going for. And then also, there's another one that I read about, like when switching your focus, like every time you have to switch your focus from one thing to the other, you lose your brain. It actually takes a lot of energy from your brain to focus on a different thing. So if you're watching a routine, if you're choreographing 1 minute, then the next minute you're cleaning, and then the next minute you're
it's like all these
doing formations, and then the next minute you're like, all right, let's do it, and you press play. Like sometimes when I press play, my brain goes, uh-oh, because you're about to see the thing you put so much work into. So you end up finishing days at like real big days of teaching. You're just
you're just drained.
You can actually feel the
mentally, physically, like, and that's why I think for what you were saying before about doing the same show again.
Yep.
It's kind of not impossible to do that, but in the context and structure that you have available, it's impossible because you can't do that to people's bodies. Like you can't just be like, okay, we've learnt a whole dance routine and now I'm going to change the whole dance routine and we're going to do the show again. And you can't do that to your budget because hiring a theatre is a space is quite expensive. And whereas playing a gig, rehearsing for a few rehearsals, like you can knock a song together in 3 rehearsals, and that's a bit of time. And then playing a gig on it is going to probably it's not going to cost you too much money. It costs you some time, but you're kind of hanging out. It's like, you're at a pub, you grab a few beers, your friends come maybe. The sound is awful, you hate it, but you learnt something about that song, and what you learnt is that it's all wrong. Cool. Yeah. And it just doesn't cost that much.
Sure.
It's good to change. Yeah. And that's something I've always found. But then on the other hand, I think that
dancers just have their bodies to bring to the rehearsal as well, whereas musicians
are going to bring all their props.
Got their gear.
But
that's kind of expensive too.
But on the other hand, there's the temporal nature of like to use the Blackguard show, and how temporary it is means you can put it out there. Because you put it out there, you do it, it happens, and it goes away. Yeah. Whereas if I put out a song that's recorded badly, it's going to be recorded badly and out forever. And I mean, sure, I can pull it back offline and things like that, but it's a less I'm going to say 3-dimensional interaction, like a live show with Blackguard. I'm sitting there and I'm relating to the dinner I just had, and I'm relating to the sound, and I'm relating to the person next to me's BO, and like there's so many other things happening, and I'm relating to what happens to catch my eye in that moment, and I can't relive it. Like that's it. If I saw your cast member being amazing in that moment, I'm like, wow, he was amazing in that moment. I may not have seen the 5 other cast members tripping over as they got off stage. Whereas if that was the only version that you were ever going to release, you'd be like, no, I want to do it and not have you trip over when you go off stage because this is going to DVD. That's a different thing. Yeah. But then, so it gives you kind of like you get a different momentum, I think, as a dancer, where the momentum of releasing and and even like class being like a mini show for some teachers where they are showcasing like regularly, and it's just a moment that comes and goes, and they develop this relationship where they're not super obsessive about it because they're not going to teach that routine again. which in some cases is kind of sad. Like in the case of maybe like a Keone, where he, you know, I remember the year that he did Manolo. I do it for the turn up, and I got to learn that from him. That
Keone,
year.
if you're watching this, I don't know why are you here? But if you're watching this, Manolo, oh mate.
But it was like a hit.
One of my favorite videos. Like,
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it's like a hit single of dance videos, you know? It's like you watched it 20, 30 times and you were like, this is so cool.
I'm going to watch it again after this.
And then I got to learn it from him, and it was so cool. He was like, okay guys, we're going to learn this routine. And it goes like this, 5, 6, 7, 8. And he did the first move and everybody did that. Everyone went, like, because we all
knew it.
It would be like sitting down with, you know,
we're going to go, I do it for the... Everyone's like, turn up. Tears, like, just as they say, they whisper to themselves, turn up. And it just goes, drop. Like,
I'd be sitting down with, like,
so
what's his name? Cheney from Living End, for example. And you're a massive Living End fan, and he's like, you're sitting down with him, and he's like, okay, we're going to learn this song. And you're like, oh, I love this song. And you're like, suddenly you're like, yeah, I'm in. But then, like, for Keone, he may teach that for a series of workshops over a year.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of over after that. So, you know, you don't get to go to a Keone class and relive that, you know, like you might go to a Guns N' Roses show and relive like that song that you love.
Relive your teenage years.
So it's different, but so there's like the temporary nature of it in that you do it and then it happens and it's kind of over.
Yeah.
I think is great.
Yeah, because what I'm trying to create as well, I think
and I don't have that with my music, which is something that I'd like to get.
Right.
Some sort of temporary relationship where I'm like, I am just releasing things that kind of don't matter to build a sense of identity for myself and for people. But
I think, something I've tried to do with Blackguard is I want the Blackguard shows to be an event, and if you miss it, you miss it. And I just want it to be like, I just want it to leave a steaming crater in the ground and for people to go, whoa, that happened, you know, and that sort of, this is the event. And then when you promote it, people are like, oh, well, I have to go see this because if I don't see this, I'm not going to catch it next year. It's not going to be around. It's not a musical. It's not going to tour. It's here for that. Also, because I'm poor. It's like it's here for that night only, and this is all you get, which makes it kind of special. And then we can, which makes it okay for us to put in things like we were talking about Georgia before, but in Still Breathing, the show that we did back in June, there's a part in the show where she slaps me in the face, and we like mimed theatre actors, we like mimed a slap, and Neil came in to do notes for the show, and he was like, yeah, that slap, and we were like, yeah, we straight away knew what he was going to say. And he said, yeah, it has to be real. And I went, yep, no worries. And Georgia was like, really? Like, got really excited. And I was like, hey, calm down, man. It was like, look, she's like, oh, we want to slap him. So excited.
Hey, I need to go to the loo.
Yeah. And she, okay, see you, Steve. And she absolutely caned me. She punched me so... You what?
On behalf of everyone.
On behalf of everyone, she caned me.
Hi, my name's Steve Barnard, and I'm back from the toilet.
Hello, my name's Brady Kitchingham, and I'm back from behind the camera.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Let's get on to the nitty-gritty. Peanut butter jams.
What about the peanut butter? Yeah,
So, TED Talk thing kind of mentioned, but it was great because you came up with this. You were going to choreograph to it after you took us through all these renditions of this song. You took us. You were talking about how you wanted to choreograph to it. And you spent so long in the studio, not really coming up with any. You probably came up with something, but it was probably not something you enjoyed. Yeah, right.
And maybe it was good, but it didn't matter. I wasn't feeling it or seeing it, or you know, I don't think it was good.
And what did that lead you to do?
I've been practicing freestyling for the last few months, and filming my freestyles, and then. So my process is I'll pick a song. There's a few things I do, but I pick a song, and my main process has been I then dance to that song only for like an hour maybe, and the first thing I'll do is I'll dance to it but only move every 8 count, and then every 4 count. So this is the whole way through the song.
Gotcha.
And that might be like pose on the 8.
That's good.
Pose on the 8. Pose on the 8. Or it might be like move through the 8 and move through the 8.
Yeah, the different movement
and
styles,
move through
right?
the 8. Yeah, and then on
There's
the
like
4,
4 or 3
and
different.
then the
Yeah.
2, and then the 1, and then the half, and then 16th. And by the time you get 16th, you're just moving so fast, it's stupid.
Yeah.
But it's just to try.
That's
Like,
really good. You should, everyone who's listening and watching, you should try that. I'm going to try it. It sounds really cool.
And then you move on to, so you've just done the counts. So you're really familiar with the tempo of the song then, I guess. And then I'd go on to doing the instruments. So it'd be like only to the vocal. And being really strict. It's quite hard because you're so used to catching snares, particularly. It's just like you might be like, he's going down to the but you've got to be like, he's going down
After the snare.
And then, or you go, okay, guitar time. And some songs it doesn't really work with, just with the way they're produced. It can, like I tried to do it to 24 Carat by Bruno Mars, and it was just really hard. Like, you could do the drums and the bass, and then there's just so many wacky keyboard parts. It's like, oh, it's so inconsistent. I can't really like find the pocket.
Yeah.
So you move from instrument to instrument, vocal, drums, but you might even just do just the kick drum.
Yeah.
So you really like start listening. Where is the kick drum and when is it happening? And like, and then just the snare. And then you're like, oh, there's actually these like weird random ghost snares in the background. Like, well, let's do one to that and one to the main snare or whatever. And then it's really fun.
I feel like we might have non-musicians. A snare is the thing that goes, psh, but it's like, to me it goes, psh, right? It's not a cymbal. It's the drum.
Yeah.
That'll do.
And then the fun one is when you choose like guitar, for example, and the guitar's in the intro and the chorus, but not in the verse. So you're like jamming on this guitar, and then the verse comes, and you just have to not move for the whole verse, and being like, that's the task, like only guitar. So now I just have to be still, and you just wait and wait and wait, and the guitar's back in, and you go.
That's cool.
And it's fun because it helps you learn some great like patience and things like that. And then at the end you go and you play it and you just dance to whatever you hear and you freestyle. And by that point you're so in the song.
And you've also warmed up your freestyle, and as we both know, when you warm up your freestyle, when you're first starting to warm up your freestyle, you sort of come up with crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's normally like
it's terrible stuff, and then once you get past that, I call it the top layer of crap. I sometimes use another word.
Yeah, like shave it off. Like
I sometimes use another word that starts with an sh. But yeah, and once you yes, shoe, the shoe of
it's weird.
the layer of shoe.
You gotta get to the good stuff.
Yeah, get to the good stuff. You just got to deep dive a little bit more.
I've had a couple of wins choreographing in the last 6 months, and I say a couple, like 3, in 6 months.
That's a few.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was like, well, mate, I'll just do that again, but with my own tune. But then I think there were all these like kind of, self expectations and pressures that I laid on that were a bit weird. And so it just wasn't happening. And I was like, okay, I haven't been practicing choreographing.
Yep.
I've just had a couple of wins. And now I'm putting all my pressure on myself to choreograph something. I'm not having a win. And so I'm just getting exhausted. I have been practicing freestyle. So let's practice doing that in front of some people, because I haven't done that yet. And it's kind of lifted that need to, because I was going to choreograph it, and what I wanted was to practice doing a routine with a microphone as a singer. So I wanted to have like 4 or 5 dancers and actually be like the dancing front man in a safe space like Peanut Butter Jams, where I can just fail miserably. But I just couldn't get it together. So I was like, okay, we just have to change the thing I'm going to do, or just not do anything, which would have been okay, but I think
better to do something than nothing.
Yeah, and just because I want to practice, and I think practicing in front of people is important.
Definitely.
because you can often get there and just
which is the
get a
whole
bit nervous.
Yeah, which is the whole notion of peanut butter jams and why it's created,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so you came up with you freestyled to the track. Before you freestyled it, you had this idea.
So the idea is to not choreograph for any purpose other than practicing choreographing, and kind of relating it to, inadvertently what's happened for me as a songwriter is that now I'm trying to songwrite for a specific project with a specific narrative and character and all these things, but I have years and years of just songwriting because it's fun and I just do it and
because you've done it for ages. You've done it since you were like 8, right?
Oh, even younger. Like I used to get my mum to write. So I would write music. I don't even read music, but I would write music for my mum as a little kid and be like, play it, mum. And she would be like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, yes, it does.
I was like, the critic.
Yeah.
Everyone's a critic, he says.
I was like, just play it though, mum. Just play. She's like, you need bar lines. Mum, just play my music.
Play my music, mum.
And I was always, so songwriting is fairly, I guess, quite natural. It's like one of those things that I just did and just made sense. And I just was like, oh, you just get words and get melodies and put them together. And at one point they were terrible.
That's what I did too.
Yeah. But you slowly, and then you get teachers and you get feedback and you go, oh, those decisions are terrible and those ones are good.
Better,
and you kind of
go from there.
Work your way to some sort of process. I guess that's the thing. It's like, I have a process. I know what my brain does. I know what things I need to do to get around blocks. I don't really I want to say I don't get writer's block, but I've got enough tools on my belt now that if I'm blocked, it's not some sort of cosmic calamity. It's like, oh, I just need to like actually, when I think about, oh, I'm blocked, it's more like, oh, I just haven't actually played guitar for 2 weeks. If I sit down and play guitar. And then also it might be a case of, what am I trying to write? Am I trying to write something that is sexy, but I'm not really thinking about what makes a sexy song? You know, it's like, well, go listen to your 5 favorite sexy songs, think about what elements they have, you know, and what makes that appealing, and then have 10 goes at like doing those things and just whittling it down.
Pick the best ones, yeah.
Whereas with choreography, I'm still at the like cosmic stage of like, it must come.
I was like waiting for it to get there.
Yeah.
And you did this great thing that everyone started laughing about, but I was like, it's seriously, everyone was like laughing at it. Maybe they were taking it seriously, and I think they were, but I think they were also laughing at your physicality of what you were doing too. But I was kind of like
this kind of action, like creativity, come, the muse, visit me.
Yeah.
You know.
And I was like, that's honestly how some people think about it. It's how I used to think about it. And it's how it's not no trivial thing. That is the way that we, in a lot of ways, view art. We view it as this cosmic thing that you need to sort of wait. And that what you said before about like writer's block or dancer's block, choreographer's block, freestyler's block, would we say? It's not today, bugger. You know, and I have to spend a couple of days in turmoil in order to create something. It's just not true.
And sometimes your block might be that you don't like anything you're doing, which is that's not a block. That's just like, you know, created some crap work for a few days. Like, that's well, like, there was one story. I think it was Nelly Furtado. So random.
Like a bird.
Exactly. I think so. The story, as I remember it, might be slightly different, but I think it's true of other people. Is that when she was in the studio working on her debut album, whatever, they were working, and there for weeks or months or whatever, and then they needed one more song, and she wrote "Turn Out the Lights" within a day. Like, wrote it, recorded it, dropped it, changed her career, her life, career, whatever, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, in a lot of ways, I think all that time leading up to that, because I don't know how many people know the rest of that album. There's probably that other one you sung, I'm Like a Bird.
I'm Like a Bird.
And then
that's honestly the only one. I don't even know Turn Off Lights, I don't think.
Turn out the lights, if you follow me, down, say
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Something like
I
that.
just don't like it as much as I like I'm like a
Sure.
bird.
And
I
I
love
don't.
that song.
Anyway, but I think for me, that said to me, what was really happening is that you were practicing all this stuff and analyzing and nurturing all this stuff to get to a point where you could write a song as good as that one.
Yep.
Um,
It was cumulative.
Yeah, it wasn't a magical moment.
Yeah, no.
It was actually a learnt moment that you spent weeks learning. And then your band they all just did it, and it was like, whoa, why can't this happen every time?
Yeah.
It's like, well, it never happens every time.
Yeah.
That's just not how it ever works.
Well, it's like the classic thing about luck is preparation meets opportunity.
Sure.
She'd spent all those years preparing, being a songwriter and writing, and probably writing good songs, probably writing really bad songs, probably, every sort of song under the sun. And then that's her preparation. And then the opportunity is, you're in the studio, you're a little bit under pressure. Maybe that pressure tweaks something that activates all your preparation, and then you click in and away you go. Yeah. And sort of, I think that's what you're trying to do with this choreographer, this challenge thing, right?
So choreographing not for the sake of a class or for the sake of a video or a showcase, but for the sake of the craft of choreographing. So and not spending too much time, so not becoming obsessive, like being like, I'm only going to spend an hour and my goal is to get 45 seconds to a minute of choreography, and therefore I have to make quick decisions and intuitive decisions and decisions where I just trust what's happening, because I just need to do it. And it doesn't have to be good. That's the other thing. It just has to be me finishing the process, and then reflecting on it and learning from it. And then on top of that, then what I would like to do is also have it so it applies like techniques of choreographing, like one, again, dropping the Keone Mari school of thought, like having the way that Keone and Mari have broken down how they build choreography and build their isolations on top of grooves and things like that, and being like, okay, for this hour today, I'm going to work on layering grooves with isolations, and I'm going to pick a track that's not heaps musical. I'm going to pick a track that's like kind of steady. So what I'm actually not working on is musicality and matching the track. I'm working on this like skill of like doing the Dougie whilst
layering,
twisting my head and doing some weird thing with my arms or whatever. Because just as a choreographic tool belt thing in my tool belt to have to use at another time.
Yep.
And kind of making a list of some of those things and just doing it because I want to practice choreographing.
Cause?
Yeah.
Even
doing it. Yeah, just cause.
Cause. Full stop. Like, that's mad, yeah.
And I think because when it's cosmic, it's stressful and it cannot be fun. But and
you can't control it. You put yourself in a position where you're out of control.
Yeah.
And you do it on purpose, and you wait on whatever you're kind of placing the job of creativity on. You're putting it outside of you, therefore you're taking no responsibility for it, and then that puts you in a perfect position to not practice your craft.
Exactly. And that's it. It's like I want to... So there's a few people that I think inadvertently do that. So I think JB, director of Flight Crew, creative director.
James Berry.
He does this. Like he is very... Like he just... I think him and choreography is like me and songs. Like if I had I have had a Flight Crew that I've just dumped all my songs on. Like whether they make sense or not, whether they're good or not, whether I like them or not, whether I'm going to be doing them in 3 months or a year or not. It didn't really matter. It was like, I'm writing, you're playing for me, and so you're the guys I'm dumping all the... And then in the meantime, I'm refining what I do in the background and coming back the next week and being like, no, guys, chuck that out. And they're all just like, what the hell's going on? So I'm like, it's totally the same, except, again, dancing is a lot more exhausting than music. So it's a little bit easier to just chuck out a rehearsal's worth of music rather than... because it didn't... Anyway, and
Delete.
Someone else is Nevin.
Yep.
Who I think he just does stuff because
Nevin Connolly.
He finds it interesting.
Yep.
He's like, I'm interested in
Yeah.
creating with my body.
Nevin has this great this great happenstance. Yeah, curiosity. He's like a kid. He just finds a toy. He finds a toy.
Yeah.
And he's just so fine with being like, I'm going to let myself play with this.
Yeah, totally.
And he just does. He's just got this childlike wonder about him.
And the thing with Nev is that it's he's always exploring new things. Like I think some people have that. Oh, and JB, they're both kind of exploring new things all the time. Some people have, and there's lots of people that are like Nevin and JB. Not saying that they're the only two, but they're quite prominent in my own circles.
Yeah, we watch them a lot. We know them very well.
There's other people who choreograph a lot and have a good choreographic practice in that they can whip something up easily, but it's always kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
That just is in a different order.
Yeah.
It's like they have 6 or 7 moves, and then like every 10th or 14th thing that they do is slightly original. Whereas those guys, they're like a little bit.
And you can totally make a career out of that too. There are some, depending on what you're doing.
But then that's not really like
but I don't like
creative
like that. No.
process. That's more like it's slightly different. It's like product selling, not creative. Yeah, it's like, I have a brown bread recipe, and now I'm serving brown bread with raisins, brown bread with sesame seeds, brown bread with, it's like, it's the same brown bread. Gotcha. It's just got like different things on top.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, particularly Nevin, is like, I'm learning to make every single type of bread I possibly can.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he's gluten intolerant.
Yeah.
Shout out, Nev. We got there in the end, buddy. We got there. Oh goodness.
And there's something to be said for, I think if you're developing your brown bread, like you're making it a deeper flavor or a richer flavor or something, maybe that's cool.
Sure.
I think
if you're trying to build a better bread.
Yeah, like I think people who are a great example of that, or someone for me who's a big inspiration, is Chris Martin.
Sure.
In that, like, I feel like he's figured out his brown bread.
Yeah, right.
But he's like, I'm going to make this the tastiest brown bread ever, and I'm going to keep working on this brown bread because I know that's my brown bread, but I can make a better brown bread, or I can make it, and every time you see him, you're like, that's the same thing, but like wildly different and interesting and cool and quirky and
like every time you watch him do a routine, it's like a home run. You're just like, you did it again, man.
And it's
how good.
And it's the same as the other one, but it's because it's Chris. It's not like now Chris is doing house, or now Chris is doing putting, or now Chris is doing Chris.
Yeah.
But it's just looks like different to the last Chris.
Well, like a baseball that hits like a home run. It's like it can happen in left field, right field, center field. It's going to be a different place every time, but still, he's still swinging that bad. Like he has batting practice. And, just like
yeah. So I don't know. I think that the kind of mini project, which I don't want to make the project so big that then I don't even do it. Like scare myself out of the project as well. Because I think what I want out of it is a good thing for me to answer, which maybe I haven't thought about before. Because there's my ego, and what my ego wants out of it is to become a good choreographer and to like be showcasing next year at Australian Dance Festival, and then to get invited overseas to do camps, and then to be like on YouTube and killing it, and da 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 da. And it's like, okay, but whoa, what if none of those things happen? Is this still a worthwhile thing to do? And the answer I think is yes, because what I want out of it is to be able to like get in the studio, know my kind of repertoire, know my process, choreograph something for it not to be exhausting and stressful, and then to execute, like be able to teach that and have a fun time teaching it. And so that's where I'm like, I want tools in my belt so that I can do it and enjoy it. I don't want to not do it because I'm scared of it and it overwhelms me and I'm like tired every time I try and it wastes hours of my life.
So the challenge itself is what? Quickly like nail that down, and then I think we'll wrap up.
To spend at the moment, I think I'm going to just do a week.
Yeah, I think that's good.
1 week, 1 hour a day, different song and or creative kind of task every day, choreographic creative task, 45 seconds to a minute of choreography. So you've got 1 hour, 1 task, 1 minute. Oh, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 task, 1 minute.
One Steve.
And to...
One future, yours.
your future. And to try and develop the tools in your belt and get to know and get it done and be efficient and enjoy it and move on and be like, it's just a dance.
I think all 4 of those things you just said are awesome as well.
Yeah.
It's like, get it done. Oh, I forget what it was already, but...
Get it done, be efficient, enjoy it.
What else do you need?
Yeah.
I mean, food, air, you need things, but...
And because the reality is you're probably not going to be famous or like showcasing at big events or whatever, but...
And you might be, but that's not what it's for.
And another reality is though, you can probably enjoy this, but if you make it about the bigness of it, you might not enjoy it. Actually, you probably won't because even...
Depends on the goal because to be famous is like a results goal rather than an intrinsic... rather than a goal on your... Yeah, like that's the problem when reading about this book, the first 20 hours when you learn, it's like about skill acquisition. Basically when people if someone's overweight and they want to lose weight, that's a results-based goal. And so people... As soon as if they join a gym membership with the goal to lose weight, they go to the gym a little bit, they do their thing. They could be consistent for a little while, but if they're not losing as much weight as they think they were going to or as much as they want to, they view themselves as a failure because the results aren't lining up to their expectations or because the results are it's just a results-based goal. But if your goal is to go to the gym 3 times a week every week for a year, and your goal is to just up your numbers and increase your health, you're way more likely, scientists have found, you're way more likely to stay on it.
Just to stay on it, yeah.
Because then you're not measuring yourself via your appearance or your weight. You're measuring yourself on, did I tick the box of going to the gym today? Yep. Sweet. And because you're going to the gym, you're being active. Once you step in those doors, it's really hard to just go, oh no, like walk out. Like you're there, you might as well do a bench press. You might as well get on the travelator. The travelator at the airport. You might as well do some cardio machines.
Yeah, right? Which I think is the thing with where I landed up with PBJs was that like what I'm trying to do is get a result from peanut butter jams, which was because it wasn't really about. It became not about practicing with a microphone and stuff and blah, blah. It became about me having to choreograph a sick routine and then I just couldn't do that. And so, but stripping away that and being like, what I want is to be more comfortable and proficient at, freestyling, which is the thing I've been working on.
Yeah.
And so doing that in front of people is a part of being comfortable with it. So I'm going to do that because... And then my ego took a hit because I was like, the result I want is for people to think I'm awesome. For people to come up and be like, yes, that was so great and you're amazing. And not that didn't happen. I didn't even really give it a chance to happen. It wasn't... But my brain was like, you're not going to get that. And so we're heavy-hearted now. Like the ego is taking a hit. Whereas, and it just took me like almost 5 days to be like, hey brain, we didn't do it for that point. We did it for this reason. Please catch up. Please ego, catch up because you're making me feel way more down and sorry for myself than I need to be. But I think that's the weird relationship you have with those things. And again, like you cripple yourself choreographing a routine for industry night.
Yep.
Because you want to look lit and go off, and you spend hours trying to get it right,
and you want drunk people to go whoa.
Yeah, and you don't know how to choreograph for yourself yet, so it takes you way too long, and you become super obsessive. And
I think it's a really good I think it's a really good task, and I think if people do it, only if people do it, it'll have a really positive effect on them. So I thought that was great that you stepped up and you did it. You showed us through like the iterations of that song, and then you were like, I struggled with this, and therefore I'm putting a thing on me, and please join me.
Yeah.
This is going to actually be really cool, but only really is if you do it.
I want to do only a week, because if it gets any bigger than a week, then it starts becoming really hard.
Sure.
And again, music and dance are different. You could, it's not as exhausting to sit down and play a song for a minute.
Absolutely.
You could, or even write a song for a minute. That's not, but like choreographing for a minute.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stuff.
It's just quite tiring.
It's a lot of trial and error, a lot of failing, a lot of body things, a lot of You got to warm up and like.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much going on.
You just have to. You can't just go plug in and play. You can't just pick up an acoustic and go. Boom, it's just what it is.
I think that's why I turned it down to 45 seconds as well, because just to be like,
you turned it down to 45.
Or 45 to a minute. Like
45
that's
to
your
a minute. That's good. Yeah,
like end 1 hour.
Yeah,
and just so you can like.
And your first one can be crap.
Like, they can all be crap.
That's true. That's true. But like, you don't have to. Like, you can do it for it to be terrible, and it's still something.
Yeah,
and that, if you need to do that to start it, that was something that I do. Like when I journal in the morning, I used to write 3 pages of word vomit every morning, and it just used to be dumb. It just used to make no sense. But now it's started to take on this like thing.
Sure. And what it also does is it means because you've got this goal of 45 seconds to a minute, you start having to make decisions that are quick.
Yep.
And or that take, so you'll suddenly be like, crap, I'm like 3 8 counts away from getting 45 seconds. I've got 10 minutes left. Then you might be like, okay, I'm going to make a decision to like just walk across and like, just be like walking on the beat and maybe just looking up and to the side and down and forward. And then that lands up being really effective, but it's like, I made that decision because I was pushed for time. But then I learned a lesson that like, that you could just like nail these simple moments and they can be really cool and effective. It's like just take up 8 counts, like bouncing on the spot, like, and it could be super cool. You don't have to be like content. Yeah,
definitely.
We've talked for so long.
I think we should leave it there, to be perfectly honest. On the back of all that,
so much rambling.
Yeah, but it's cool though. I think.
Learning how to podcast. This is you doing the same thing.
I'm learning.
The podcast is like, this is probably not going to be the greatest presentation of a podcast, but I've never done one before.
Hey,
so
if you got this far, thank you.
Give you a biscuit.
Yeah, vegan biscuit. Ladies and gentlemen, the Blackguard have an event coming up. I should promote a couple of things. Blackguard have an event called Fright Night coming up, where you get a day of workshops with some awesome choreographers, and then at night there's a bit of a party, so you can wear your favorite Halloween costume. There are some prizes for best dressed, best worst dressed as well. So someone who's got a great costume, and they'll like win a prize, and like audience vote as well. So you can we can point to people and everyone will be like, yeah, based on how much they like that costume. And then best worst costume, like if someone just puts 0 effort in, but it's also hilarious.
Right. Best worst costume.
Worst. Like so if it's just terrible, if someone's like, I'm a bin, and you're like, okay, just because they were like, I don't know, and maybe they put something to the last minute and it's actually awesome. It's like, that's terrible, but great. How did you do that?
Yeah. Cool.
Competitions like that is pretty cool. We're gonna have best goblet. So we're not gonna have any plastic cups. So we're gonna have if you have a fancy cup or a fun cup at home that you bring in, and if it's the best, you'll win a prize for that as well. Because if you want to have fluid throughout the night, you can. So there's that. Cool. So please come. It's on the 28th of October. You can find it on trybooking.com. We'll chuck the details up in the links down below the video, or in the podcast notes somewhere. Got that. Please follow the Blackguard on Instagram and Facebook. We have updates on that. Please follow Steve on the socials, on the Instagrammers. And have you got a Facebook page?
Oh, for John Cotton.
Yeah,
I do. Yeah, and for Arbery. Everything is I am John Cotton.
Cool.
If you want to find John Cotton, just all the socially things and websitey things. I am John Cotton.
If you want to find,
the website is down because it was doing nothing and costing me money. So it's just like, why am I spending money on this?
That's fair. You can find me at Brady Kitch, and you can find the Blackguard at the Blackguard _. The underscore is very important. There's all that stuff. And please do Steve's 45-second to 1 minute Corey challenge. It's going to make your Corey much better. I know I'm going to do it.
Oh yeah,
Gonna give it a bash. Yeah, for sure. I gotta give it a bash. I mean, at first I was like, oh, I don't want to do it. I had like so many excuses, but then I was like, oh, just do it, man. Like he's right. He's right. He's not getting in your way. I was just getting in my own way.
I think it could be really fun.
It could
be because I would like to do it for a week. Reflect on.
Well, you were saying before, Sella's gonna do it, right? Well, Sella jumped in the comments and was like, I'm in. Like I'm keen. Which is cool.
Yeah, do it for a week.
So if you're listening to both us say that we're going to do it and you're like, I'm not convinced, Sella's cool. Yes. So, do it because she's doing it.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we'll finish it there.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. See you when we see ya. Bye, Steve.
Bye.